A lot of people say, yeah, I've got a goal. Well, is it written down? Because if it's not written down, it's a dream. Don't go cheap. Don't hire someone that is below you. Hire someone that's equal to you so then you can focus on growing your business. I don't understand why you think that's such a powerful statement when in fact you're losing your ass.
What's the real cost of business chaos? If you're a small or mid-sized company leader, chances are you're bleeding time and money without even realizing it. That's why today's guest is so important. So we're joined by Tina O'Banion, known as the CFO Boss, a financial strategist and founder of TFO Clarity. Tina is the creator of the Financial Clarity Code, a proven blueprint that helps CEOs and entrepreneurs finally master their numbers, grow their profits, and lead their business with confidence. Tina, I'm so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us on The Edge for Tomorrow.
Well, thank you for having me. It's so nice that we got to do this today.
I'm thrilled that not only is this an opportunity for me to dive into your clarity method and 7 steps that you take your clients through, but also because you just got your books in your hand. So that's really exciting. This is how people can really not just hear about these steps, but then work through them. So let's dive in and yes, let's show it. Let's
Okay.
see the book.
Just hot off the press. So this is the Clarity Code, the proven blueprint to financial clarity. It's a story-driven guide for CEOs to lead like a CFO boss.
Nice.
And then the accompanying workbook. So I got a workbook so that walks you through each one of the 7 steps. Isn't that fun? I love the colors.
Beautiful. Amazing.
Thank you.
Well, this is perfect timing that those came out because let's dive in. Tina, you mentioned that Clarity Method is a 7-step journey for CEOs. So what inspired you to build it and how has it helped your clients?
So I call myself a retired CFO in corporate America, and I started my business about 6 years ago. And when I did, I had many clients, just referrals to me, and they were struggling with number one thing is knowing their numbers. They had either a CPA that did their taxes once a year or bookkeeper to pay their bills. They really didn't understand the fundamentals of what the financial statements were saying. That was the first step, is like I work with my clients to have them understand not only just what the income statement shows, the top line and the bottom line, which most business owners they know how much money is coming in and they know how much their bottom line is, but they just don't look at the rest. The income statement tells a story, and so does the balance sheet. A lot of entrepreneurs, CEOs, don't even look at the balance sheet. And there are some hidden gems I've seen along the way that balance sheet is hiding. Oh my gosh. So I have, that's kind of one of the first steps I've always done with my clients is to have them fully understand their financial statements, including the statement of cash flows. They never looked at that. They don't know where their money's coming from or where it's going to. So at the end of the day, it's that education piece of really understanding their numbers. That's the foundation of the Clarity Method, is understanding those financial statements and then tackling from there strategy, right? So having a CPA, having a bookkeeper, that's all great. You get your bills paid and you get your taxes done, but there is more to it when you put on that CFO hat. And that's why the book says a story, to lead like a CFO boss. We as CEOs, we have that chief everything hat that we're wearing all the time, but we forget about that financial piece.
Right.
So I think it's very important that step one is that foundation of knowing your numbers.
Can you give some examples of any clients, what knowing a number in their cash flow or balance sheet, how that translated to strategy that they could actually take in their business?
Well, I've got a great example. A guy came to me. He's like, "Look, I can't get a loan. I don't know what they're looking at. I'm, talking to all these banks, and I need to buy a piece of equipment." I was struggling trying to find why he was getting denied for this loan. He said, Tina, you came highly, referred to me. So I'd like for you to have a sneak peek. Well, I did. And oh my gosh, he never looked at the balance sheet. He's one of those guys that had a bookkeeper and had a CPA file his taxes. So I kind of investigated and went through it. And, he ended up spending about $25,000 for me to clean up, me and my team to clean up his financial statements going back 3 years of wrong classifications, wrong things on his balance sheet. And I call it hidden gems because he had stuff on there that he had paid off, debt that he had already paid off. And it was just a hodgepodge of things on that balance sheet that just weren't accurate. And imagine spending that kind of money for us to clean that up. He just was unaware of all these things, these years and years of just mishaps on his balance sheet and income statement. He was able to go to go get the loan once all that was cleaned up, and he was able to buy that piece of equipment to grow his business. Today he's thriving, which I love. I think that's so important. And the strategy piece comes to making sure all your foundation is right. And then it was, let's work on what are your goals? What's your return on your investment? What do you expect to receive after you buy this piece of equipment, and how that will help you grow into the next 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years. So it's that strategic path that I set him on, and he was able to thrive in that environment.
Beautiful. Once someone has tackled that first step, what's next on the journey?
I think it's more of, a lot of business owners don't have an exit in mind. When you start your business, it's always good to have an exit in mind. And so setting your goals, if you're starting your business and you're 50 years old or whatever, and you want to retire by the time you're 60, so that's 10 years. So setting your goals to get to, what do you want out of the business 10 years from now when you retire? And also looking at goals in a whole different way. Right. So chunking your goals out into maybe a 90-day projection, and having accountability and having very specific goals. I walk you through goal setting 101 using 2 very famous goal setting tools, and set goals like the greats do it. So that's one thing that you'll learn through the Clarity Code, is how you set goals. A lot of people say, yeah, I've got a goal. Well, is it written down? Because if it's not written down, it's a dream. That's the fundamental there, is like, if it's just a dream, it's a dream in your head. So you need to have those goals up on somewhere visible, so that and then you have to have many goals to reach that goal, right? So I think that's important. And that's what I've seen with my clients. In the very beginning, I didn't, we would sit down and we would do budget and forecasting. Why do I need a budget? I don't know. I'm just going to grow 20% like I did last year. Okay, that's great. But what are you going to do to grow that 20%? And all the things that kind of go with that.
It may not be the same thing as last year, right?
I know. That's just the comical thing with, sitting down with some of these business owners. When you're in corporate and you've got a whole operations team, you've got you got all these supporting staff members at your disposal, at your fingertips, right? But small business owners, they don't have that. So they don't understand what it is to put a goal in place, have it action plans, and then building a budget and building, insight on what the numbers are saying, right? So these are all kind of like things that you'll learn through the Clarity method. But I think it's important to stop making gut guesses, right? So I think having data-driven decisions is much better than, oh, my gut told me to do it. I think that's the right move. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go do this. And, I think having more of a structure that, most CEOs and larger corporations, that's how they work. That's how they live. Right. And this gives them the tools that they need to be able to be successful.
Can you tell us what happens if you don't set goals? So, and could you state if you don't set goals, then?
I just go back to, it's like a pipe, you're flying high in the clouds. You're just hoping and praying something will happen, something good will happen, right? So, when I ventured off to write these 2 books, my first book was a bestseller on Amazon. And I was like, okay, now what? Like I sold, yeah, I got bestseller, but okay. And that wasn't really what was driving more referrals into my business, because I have a goal to grow the financial office, the TFO model. And I have a goal to be in every major city in the United States. So I have that written. I have steps. So I like to say you have to walk, crawl, walk, and then run. Right. And I've been running for 6 years, not really understanding that the philosophy, you've got to crawl, then walk, and then you run. Right. So my whole mindset has shifted in 2025. And that's why I created the Clarity method, is to help businesses really grow, scale, and have more money in their pocket. Think about that exit strategy. Think about all the things that could come to realization. I was coaching someone yesterday, and I tell you, she was struggling, and she was trying to think about how to hire a new employee. So she said, I just need to clone myself, Tina. I'm like, I know the feeling, because we're working in our business so much, and she wants to work on her business. I said, well, what advice I can give you is, don't go cheap. Don't hire someone that is below you. Hire someone that's equal to you, so then you can focus on growing your business, right? And that was a lesson I learned earlier on in this year. Hiring someone, a 6-figure person, was scary, because I've had, I have employees, and I've hired, and I've, all these things, but hiring someone that is equal to you, if not better, allows you to take your what you're in the details, allows you to take a step back so that you can grow and scale your business to where you want it to be. So
What a beautiful lesson. And that is scary. It sounds scary because there's much more riding on the success of that employee when you make a high level employee. First of all, right, your expense is so much higher, so the output of that employee is so much more pressing. And it's also, they can make it or break it, right? Like if they make it, they can take you to the next level.
right.
They won't break it, but you just have to start the process over and find someone else. And I think that's a really beautiful insight.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think it was just, yeah, a friend of mine called me yesterday. It's like, oh, well, don't go cheap, because I've been there, done that. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I love it. Don't go cheap. That's fair. Get those good people on your team. We're trying to
Yeah.
scale here. So, Tina, every framework has a turning point, right? So what's the third piece in your clarity approach, and what surprises people most about it?
I think it is diving deeper into not only, having the foundation, having your goals and action plan. It is then, setting up metrics, setting up, your KPI, setting up your what you're driving towards, and adjusting. I think too, like, we set these goals, we set a budget, we set these things in place and action, and then we just let it, like businesses tend to kind of go, okay, I got all this framework done, and then, oh, I got to measure that. So you have to measure what matters is very key. So measuring what matters is, oh my gosh, girl, I can tell you, I have had so many clients that either don't measure anything, or they measure too much. It's like, I don't care. If I were a CEO, I don't care where I spent the $50. I want to know the big picture. So I'm a big picture person. I'm sure when I started my accounting profession, I thought smaller things mattered. If I was off 3 cents on a bank reconciliation, I'd just go try to find that 3 cents. And then I started climbing the corporate ladder, and that 3 cents doesn't bother me anymore. Now I'm like, it's immaterial, write it off and move on, But some people are like, I need it to the penny. And that's not, you can't be focusing on the pennies when you've got an enterprise and legacy to build. Measuring what matters is going to be like your key to taking that step back. If you're too involved with the too many things that you're measuring, take a step back and really understand what is important to measure.
I love this so much so that I almost feel like in a way you're redefining the word metrics in a much better way. Metrics mean measure what matters, right? Because like it's not every metric. It's when people say metrics, that's how you get lost in measuring, having too many metrics. Like we don't care about those.
I find it so important for people to measure what matters. Have you ever heard of analysis paralysis? People get stuck in that, right? So they're trying to measure every $50 and putting it into the different buckets when at the end of the day, it's not really getting you what you need. It is the bigger picture. So I have had clients that just want to measure everything and have all these classification codes, and you've got 78 of them. It's like, no. At the end of the day, you can't. You're spending too much time trying to classify each little expense, each little $20 into all these little buckets. It doesn't make sense.
How many metrics do you recommend that people have?
It depends on the business and what you're doing, right? So my business is pretty simple. I have a service that I offer my clients. And so I tend to have maybe a couple classifications that I measure, right? How much revenue I'm getting on the book sales, or how much revenue I'm getting on this. And I do those types of things, but some may have 78. You need to bring it down to about 10 or 15 that really matter, right? You can have subcategories of subcategories of subcategories this year, and that's too much, right? So I think it's important to understand what you're measuring. For instance, I'll give you an example. If you're manufacturing this eyeglass cleaner, right? You're manufacturing this. And I think where people get hung up on is they're not measuring the right stuff, right? They're not putting it into the right places, direct labor, all the things that you need. So it's really about classification and understanding. Really, it may cost you $1 to create, and all the materials and all the stitching and all the things, right? But if you're selling it for $2, are you making money? And people would say, yes, you're making a 50% margin on this product. You sell it for $2 and you're buying it for $1. What people are not including in that is all of your direct labor and all of the things. So then really your cost really to produce that could be $2. And so you're breaking even. So I think that's what's important to really understand. Yes, my cost to produce is $1, but does that include all of my direct labor, all my direct, indirect costs like warehousing, to all of the things, right? Shipping costs, whatever it is. So I think that's why measuring what matters is key, right? And, putting KPIs together can be very difficult for people that measure too much. It's just too much that they're really, you need to tone that down a little bit, because you're really not measuring anything when you're measuring too much. It's so time consuming to get it in all the little things that you're trying to measure. And then you go months and months and months and months and months without even measuring anything to get the result. You're not even looking at the results, because at the end of the day, you're measuring too much. Right. You're just, it's a waste of time. And then whereas some people don't measure or put emphasis on the right things. So I think that I'm a fractional CFO, I get it, but having that financial mindset is what I hope to get out of the Clarity method. When you go through the workbook, I have a masterclass as well. So I think, going through these steps, I think you can really understand and see the bigger picture, right?
Well, let's get into the next steps too. Dying to get to these later steps.
So it really kind of all flows. The later steps is literally It is about the KPIs that yield results. So ultimately,
Mhm.
you're trying to yield the best results. If your goals are to increase your revenue by 20% and increase your EBITDA number by 250,000 and all the little things that kind of go in and how you're going to reach those goals, then you start to see you start to see the end results, right? Those it's a whole conglomerate of strategies put into this book,
Mhm.
right? So identifying, I met with a client a few weeks ago and we were discussing, okay, what is the next venture? She was operating at a loss and her overhead was increasing. So talking about strategies, for instance, she hasn't raised her prices, but her contractors had. I said, you've got to stop playing nice and being afraid that you're not going to get these jobs. Well, your contractors are going up, so your services need to go up with them. And it's just a kind of a natural flow. Like if you haven't raised your prices in 3 years, maybe it's time for you to raise your prices. And don't be proud to say I haven't raised my prices, because I also heard that the other day. I haven't rose my prices in 10 years. Okay, but your costs have gone up. Are you trying to give this stuff away for free? I understand that, but you got to keep up. I don't understand why you think that's such a powerful statement when in fact you're losing your ass, right? Like, why? Why are you proud of that? Stop. So I mean, it's just the truth. I'm like, oh my goodness. So, kind of going through with her, raising your prices, making sure that you bring value, thinking of other avenues of revenue. So, identifying other things that she can be doing to generate more revenue. Okay. So she's in an industry and she can have some products and, it's all the touchy feely things, right? I'm like, you can bring in products, you can brand your own products, you could do this, this, and this. And she's like, I've been afraid. I've been kind of like, my head's been buried for the last year. And she's like, I don't even pay myself. She's not even making any income off of this. Right. And so I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, we got to pay, like, first thing, we've got to be able to pay you. Bullet point number one, how do we get Jane Doe paid? Right? We're going to do this and this, this and this. So that's part of the strategy, thinking outside the box and actually thinking like, okay, what I'm doing today, what is the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Well, that's what she was doing. I mean, and so anyways, it was a good little strategy session
Well,
with her.
I see how passionate that you are, about taking your clients to the next step. I mean, that's what I see when you're telling these stories. And also recognizing how big of a role that fear plays. Is that one of the more powerful emotions that you see people experiencing when they're going through your clarity code?
I think it's the realization that, oh my gosh, this is why it matters, right? Some entrepreneurs they're such visionaries. They've got. I sometimes think that they're like, I put it like this: they're in a hot air balloon, and I've got one little string kind of holding them down for ground, to for them not to float off, right? So these visionaries, they're like, and when it comes to the numbers and like, oh my gosh, I got to think about this, they're like, la, 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 but why I'm passionate about what I'm doing and the clarity method is because it grounds them. It has the foundation that they need to be able to grow and scale and get out of that fog. I think your introduction is like CEOs are somewhat in a fog. They're just up there like, woo, where do I go? And so I think this brings them down and grounds them and sets the tone for how they're going to get to where they want to be and not just be in their mind like, I want to grow this and I want to do this and I want to have this much in my bank account. I want to have this. I want to be able to afford this. It kind of gives them the stability and the confidence to scale and grow their business.
Hoping that people can walk away from after this podcast. What should people be walking away with? What can people take with them about finding clarity in financials as a CEO that can take them to the next level? What should they take away with them?
They should probably, number one thing is they probably need to start looking at their financial statements, number one. And not just once a year, guys. I mean, I see it over and over again. Not just once a year. It is not when you print those you download the financial statements, say, here, tax guy, file my taxes. No, you need to do it on a regular basis. I actually have some funny stories in the book. This is an actual entrepreneur that I write about going through these mishaps in finance, right? And so when she then hires a fractional CFO and goes through the Clarity method, she has huddle boards in her teams, and so and she called her Money Monday meetings with her, accounting team, and just like make it fun. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to make this stuff fun. Otherwise, you're never going to look at it, right? You got to make it fun. You got to ask the questions. I've seen my clients ask those questions like, "Oh, I can't wait." First they're deer in the headlights, and then they're like, "Oh, I can't wait